The Child Care Initiative has made a significant difference. Particularly, it has been the voice around the issues that really have mattered to low-income working women.
Low-Income Child Care Institute in the poorest state in the Union was in the bullseye of getting a start for folks who otherwise didn't have a great many opportunities for a great start.
It opened my eyes to early childhood education. MLICCI wanted everybody to be on an equal playing field.
Every time I hear about the history of the Low-Income Child Care Initiative, it makes me so excited thinking about how it got started with More Community House and how there was a need for policy and advocacy around child care, and how More Community House was local, but this needed to happen at a state level.
MLICCI has made a 20-year investment in all children in Mississippi in the area of early childhood development through advocacy on behalf of children and to increase access. They have done it in terms of making sure child care is affordable for all families. They have done it to make sure that child care providers serving those low-income families are able to provide quality child care without the quality running them out of business.
We took surveys, we employed students, we spent a lot of time trying to get at the root of the problems providers were having and parents. Parents were getting kicked off the system. There was never enough money, so we're trying to get some legislation passed.
As I started looking at the demographics of the state related to poverty and single-parent families and a number of other things, I realized the Low-Income Child Care Institute, those were the boots on the ground for the least of these.
I was here in Holmes County, which is close to the Mississippi Delta, and so I became the organizer on this end, looking at child care for low-income parents, certainly pushing for full care, all-day care. So really ensuring that children who were inside these centers were safe, that it was a positive learning environment, and child care providers had what they needed.
I reached out by asking for material and information, and in no time at all, Carol and her associates were reaching out to me, encouraging me to organize. This is a grassroots movement. We will provide you with the platform and the technical assistance you need, but you need to work with the providers in your area.
The relationship has been one, I think, favorable to child care, simply because the goals set out so long ago that we thought at some time were not achievable have been achieved.
There's an adage that says, "He who opens the door is often forgotten by those who enter." I think it's so appropriate that MLICCI's celebration is highlighting those providers, because they've opened a lot of doors that otherwise might not have gotten opened.
One of the most meaningful things that happened in general with child care was that the camaraderie with the child care centers, we tried to make them work more together. They were there to support each other and to help each other with the education of the children that were in their care.
The statewide project allowed me to go in and work with them one-on-one, show them how to enhance what they already had in the centers, allow me to purchase materials for them, and give them assistance to learn how to use those materials in a learning environment to benefit the children.
And when you would go into the child care centers, once MLICCI went in, you could really see a difference from when we first started.
I became very passionate about working with all families, whether they're in a high bracket or whether they're in a low bracket. So MLICCI really changed my life when it comes down to early childhood.
The Mississippi Low-Income Child Care Initiative impacts my work as a program trainer for the Women in Construction program, because it helps me to teach other women how to advocate and find the resources and educate them on what type of support services they should have to go into the work field and be successful.
It became more and more apparent through our work that child care needed to be embedded into our program design, because we were training women in the trades But one hugely missing component was the child care piece.
Simply put, without the child care that Mississippi Low Income Child Care Initiative fight for, women wouldn't be able to be productive.
If access to child care leads to school readiness, academic performance increases, if it leads to graduation rate increases, and ultimately to the American dream. Well, if you limit access on the front end in child care, guess what you're doing? You're limiting access to the American dream. And when that happens disproportionately for a particular group of children, namely African American children and poor children, that's called racial inequity.
So I think that the intersectionality of race and gender is just so key and important to the work that the Child Care Initiative does, and that also helped birth the Women's Economic Security Initiative. What was incredible about this initiative is that Mississippi was the first in the South to have a Women's Economic Security Initiative, and so this lit people's excitement all across the country, like, wow, y'all are doing that in a conservative state. And so Anita Hill gave us a lot of feedback, and we asked, would you come to Mississippi and help us launch the initiative? And she did, and so we had this incredible summit. And I think MLICCI has become, a national voice.
The relationship with the Mississippi Legislative Black Caucus and the Child Care Initiative has been tremendous. We were able to go throughout the state, all throughout the state, sharing and educating our constituents, building that bridge between DHS and our constituents, as well as DHS and the legislators.
The Child Care Initiative has really been one of my greatest partners while serving in the legislature. Not only a partner, a friend who has been able to provide me information, data, talking points, anything really when it comes to issues of child care and low-income mothers in Mississippi.
When you have a legislature top-heavy with white men who do not perceive the problems that women have in this world, let alone women of color, it takes another entity other than just a legislative group to lift up this issue and bring it to their attention. I would just like to say that if it hadn't been for the Child Care Initiative, I'm not sure much, if anything, would be done in the Mississippi legislature.
Carol was instrumental in helping us to understand that it was necessary to be at the Capitol. Child care felt as though they were on the outside, but Carol pulled us in.
The Mississippi Low Income Child Care Initiative was at the forefront of legal action to bring a restraining order against biometric finger scanning.
The finger scan, we felt, was somewhat discriminatory, biased, and it was a way of keeping us in line.
Carol provided that platform and the resources needed for providers to move forward, and a restraining order was put into place and remains in place, and we're very thankful for that.
For you all to be doing this for 20 years, it's not something that's easy, and it's not something people should take for granted. It takes some really strong people, and I appreciate it greatly serving in the legislature, and the people of the state appreciate it, even if they may not know who you are personally.
It's such a vulnerable time right now politically, and without having advocates to really advocate for single moms, I don't know where a lot of the women we serve would be without this, and that it needs to keep momentum, and that it will keep momentum because that's the tenacity of the organization.
Many of the issues that were around when I started 12 years ago are still issues today, but without the Child Care Initiative's constant vigilance and paying attention and letting people know what the problems are, I think they would have been much worse.
We have changed the narrative in many ways, and changing that narrative is half of the battle. So I think the next 20 years will be something great to look forward to.
We find oftentimes that government officials don't place a lot of value on low-income people. MLICCI is there to say all people have value, these children are worthy, and these are the policies that should be. And so I see MLICCI being at the forefront of that for decades to come.
I really admire the work that MLICCI has done. I really admire the impact that MLICCI has made. It's a small organization, but it's made a huge impact. And I only aspire to do a portion of the great work that MLICCI has done in my lifetime.